that can be deflating for a team, or it can, everybody can step up and kind of join together. You guys obviously joined together and pulled out a big win. Just what did you like about your team's response to that?
Taylor's going to have an MRI later, but anytime that situation happens, like it happens, you're probably hoping against hope in certain situations, and but we don't know for sure. So I have a strong faith, so we're definitely going to be uplifting her. But I think it's a tough one. But it was a tough situation so early, and I think a team can handle that a lot of ways. You can kind of get ruffled, and Taylor McCabe has been an extreme great leader. She's one of our best defenders. Everybody gives her a lot of credit because she's a great shooter. The reason she continued to be such an instrumental part of us is because Taylor took a challenge when she was a sophomore, and I'm a post coach, but I met with her and I said, listen, you can be a defender. I've seen your footwork. You use this summer to get as fit as you can and as strong as you can, and become a defender. I said, you're gonna impact this team, and boy, did she do it. And she was a great leader. She helped bring Addie Deal along. Addie was a great young person. She was learning and growing and knew the lesson she was learning and continues to grow. So when that situation happened, the team just rallied, and we just gave it about 5 seconds. I said, listen, Taylor's probably not coming back in this game. This is why we've been deep. Addie's ready to go, and I called the play. And we just went on, and Addie, and I knew Addie would be ready to answer the call. I really do. She has been. So very, very grateful for all of that, and just really sick about Taylor's injury.
Yeah, I guess, Jen, going back to last year, I think around this time you guys were nearing the end of your five-game losing streak, and then a year later you guys have knocked off 3 top 15 teams in a week span. I guess, how has this team, despite being so young, how have they learned to adapt, and how have they learned to win in different ways, especially with the freshman class being such a big part of it too?
Yeah, I think that's just, every team's kind of has an identity when you start working with them. And, we've just been so blessed all my years at Iowa. For the most part, just about every era has been a heck of a team. And the thing that I define a team by is their togetherness and how much that they can really be for someone while they're also a little disappointed for themselves. And that's really hard to do because everybody wants to play 40. Everybody wants to be like chit-chat hitting the threes, right? But when you can get a group that both things can be true, you can be disappointed that you don't have a bigger role, but you're as loud as everybody else cheering for the kid that does. I think that's the hardest thing in coaching, and really taking a team and helping them form. And we really start with great, great young women. And so I think this particular group, those freshmen last year were pretty good, and they were pretty seasoned, right? And then we've added some kind of spicy pieces of the sophomores, and you have a senior, Hannah, that's really starting to really lean in and understand what she can do with her voice at times, but certainly with her skills. And then we've had a Kylie Feuerbach, who's just the rudder of this ship. And so it's like their experience mixed with this naivete, and we've created a couple breaks early in the season, and we've gotten a couple breaks. Last year, you don't get a couple breaks and you don't create them, right? And so I'm telling you, you coach long enough, it all, hopefully the good and the not so good, but hopefully more of the good happens. And I just think this group's resiliency and togetherness has really been the difference.
Jan, when Taylor goes down, first off, kind of a dumb question, but it's your call, right? You're the one calling Addie Deal off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you feel she was ready in kind of an emotional spot for her?
Yeah, just Addie's been ready, and she's had to weather so much because there's a lot of opinions, right, on when you're going to play and how we should do, and she just had to lock in, and be part of the process. And we've watched her, we've met, we've worked with her, we've seen the weaknesses early and tried to get them in more of a strength. And the game is bigger, faster, stronger, and she doesn't bat an eye. She's just ready. She's always ready. She's ready. She's ready. She's been ready, anytime you want me to play before, I got it, right? Just that eagerness. And I just think I've always been very confident in Addie. And but I also knew that this game goes big and fast and strong, and our culture is our culture, and they pass the baton, and they learn and they grow. And if you're open and you're willing to just be ready, boy, the process can be really, really great. So Addie's been, really, this last month has been really, really, I think the steps have been great. So yeah, there was no question about that.
Jeff?
In the wake of what happened last 3 minutes in Maryland, there was a stretch of 25 minutes today that they didn't have their longest run was 3-0. I mean, they didn't put together any kind
Really?
of string at all.
Wish you would have told me that. That made me feel a little better.
Okay. how do you explain,
Yeah.
your stopping ability?
Yeah, I just think that, I like our game plan. I like our attention to detail. I like what we try to do defensively. And I think we've been asked about our defensive emphasis. You got to kind of look at your teams and what you have. And last year, when I, took the baton right from Lisa, I thought we were a little longer, and I knew we could be a little better. And our staff thought so too. And Sean Sullivan, he's been to different places and been with us at the beginning. So it was fun to kind of game plan and look at different things that we hadn't done. And I just thought, we have the speed this year to be able to do some of that. I thought Kylie, held Cambridge to 7 points in the first half. She's really disappointed she ended up with 30, but that kid, I've seen that kid end up with 44, and she didn't have a great first half. And if you can just kind of stifle a really key a little bit in the first half, you've done a lot of the job. So I just feel confident in our defense. I think it's our defense that's won some of the things like in Maryland, and we've won at a Northwestern. We can hold on to that when everything else is, you're missing. So I'm really grateful with our attention to detail on the defense. Now we gave up too many transition buckets, and we overhelped. But overall, I think we did a pretty good job.
You guys have had situations where somebody gets hurt and then somebody takes advantage of it. I think back to Molly and Sid a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Given that Addie's role is likely going to increase moving forward, what about the confidence of her and just the ability to handle that increased role while also, not feeling the pressure that, she has to?
Yeah, I think, you just gotta hope that, you prepared step by step in June for these moments. Sadly, what we do, injuries are a hazard of our job. I grew up on a farm, and I remember with my dad, bad weather is a hazard of a job, right? You can do everything right as a farmer. When the hailstorm comes, even if you have crop insurance, right, it just like, whew. And I equate that in what we do. It just is heartbreaking with the emotion that's in this with kids who get hurt. And I think back to Molly Davis. But Molly Davis, when she settles, she wants nothing more than Sid to take over and help the group that she was a part of. And so I think it starts with pretty quality players, with pretty quality families. And we're not the only one. There's a lot of great, programs that do it. But I just think you have to be ready for. And I think Addie is, and hopefully the other kids on the bench, we may have foul trouble now. The bench got shorter with a really key cog in our wheel. And that is going to hurt us. It's great that, yes, I'm so thankful we have Addie Deal, but Taylor McCabe just shot 50% against a Maryland defense. So this thing that's been running really well, I'm so excited, but I feel, so sick for Taylor, but I also know that's a key cog out of our wheel. But I believe in the other kids that are going to find ways.
Ethan, when Kitts is out, it's one thing to know you're going to have a bit of a size advantage down low, and it's another thing to actually kind of take advantage of that. Plus 18 in the rebounding battle, 42-14 in the paint. What allowed Ava, Hannah, Layla to take advantage of that today?
Well, I thought even with Kitts that we could probably take advantage if we were, on it, and the words I used with the team before, I wanted to be clear and clean with our offensive decisions. How many turnovers do we end up with? Still 15. 2 or 3 more than I remember, some not real smart ones. But Kitts isn't a post. She's a facing, right? And so I felt like, and a freshman. Now, they would have rather had her, right? That's who's starting. But I felt like nothing changed with that game plan. I was more worried about we had to stop 3. You know, 3 is a really good outside shooter and penetrator. And Hannah's got a guarder out there, handsy. All of a sudden now we got to take our cog out of the wheel. So usually when you win a game like this, the wrong person gets a couple fouls, and I think 3 got fouls in that first half because she was probably trying to have to start, defend Hannah. So I just thought that we could try, but that number 12 was pretty tall in there. But once Ava kind of settled, she went fast a little bit at the beginning. And I told Ava, I thought that was just a lot of great growth. Sometimes a kid can let a travel or two kind of put you on her heels, but she just went to work and, she went 9 for 11.
Jan, Hannah comes away with a double-double today and completes what was a very successful week for her individually, being recognized by the Associated Press and Basketball Writers Association and so forth. What do you attribute to her recent string of individual excellence?
I think she was nostalgic about being a senior and feeling a little bit of the pressure. And like I can't believe I'm a senior and we got a new group and, missing, what was, but in a good way, right? And now you got a lot of new kids and then feeling that pressure, I got to carry it. And I thought heading into that end of the non-conference, I saw a little shift. And then, she had a tougher game at Northwestern, but I told her after the game, a few times I'd been as proud of her. She willed us in huddles. As frustrated because she shot really poorly, but you could just see a senior that was really had taken another step and said, everybody get on. And I think she's doing that with her play. And even if she's not always the most consistent, like, oh, she missed this, she's going to get it back another way. And she's forward thinking and she's enjoying the rest of the ride. And that's where you need her to be, because that's what's lifting everybody else up. And it's also, I'm just thrilled for her because she's really having a really great stretch right now.
The 15 turnovers that you were mentioning, that's the second fewest that a team has had against Ohio State this season.
Yeah.
Just how did you feel like you guys handled not only the press, but the pressure that they do even in the half court?
Well, I thought the ones that we did have out of that 15, there was about 3 that we just want to rewind, right? And so those are annoying, but they're also like, kind of like, duh, right? So we can take that down to 12, right? Which is those. And then there's a couple where we forced it and we didn't need to. But I think we handled the press really well. That's when I think it was 8-2, right? I mean, you could kind of feel they were going and ready. And then we started to remember, yeah, we can look over the top. Yeah, we're going to hit Ava and we're going to slice, right? Okay, and you could see us kind of recalculate. So I think that against a pressing team, I'm okay with 15. I just thought it could have been even a little bit lower. But I thought handling the pressure was really huge today.
How do you combine the success of star transfer players as well as players that you've developed as freshmen and sophomores now, just as quickly as you have this season, become such a dominant team when no one really expected it?
Yeah, I just think again it's their mentality and why they chose to come here. I'm just trying to stay a college program, man. I mean, it's just weird. And when everybody can transfer and everybody wants to play, and it's just like it can kind of get out of hand, but we just try to say, hey, we would love you to be a part of it. And if you sometimes you have to sit a couple of years. I mean, look at Kylie Feuerbach, Kate Martin, right, way back, Sid Alfwalter, Taylor McCabe, right? They didn't play, and they could have and maybe gone somewhere else. But what you feel here is I think a pretty good sense of team. And I think number one, they came here wanting to be a part of that. And then I think that they really end up really loving each other as teammates. I mean, they went out, it was Tegan's birthday yesterday, and they had a surprise party for her at some pottery thing. I mean, it's just fun things that, you don't have anything to do with as a coach, right? You just try to assemble this group and push them and challenge them and get them together. And then I think that closeness on the court, some teams are really good. They're not close off the court, and that's their formula. But for us, I think that they enjoyed being part of it on their visits here and saw something that they could identify with, and then we just try to develop the heck out of them.
Last one.
Sorry, put it down here. Yeah.
Coming off of 2 big wins, but knowing you've got a road trip coming up with another, I mean, we're in the heart of Big Ten basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you quickly kind of shift that bench mentality to some of them are now gonna have a bigger role with, you know, Taylor potentially being out for a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah.
Or a lot bit, you know?
Yeah, well, I think, sorry, I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think, you know, tomorrow we gotta kinda, you know, right now, my staff's probably starting to watch the film, and I will, I'll get familiar with USC, and then I'll watch this film again. But I think tomorrow's a really big day to start to really look at matchups and then get in a situation where you're looking at like, okay, these guys are now gonna be the backups for this kid, and knowing when we need the shooting and when we need size. So tomorrow will be pretty big, strategy-wise. But the hardest thing about tomorrow is getting used to it emotionally. And that's the hardest thing. When you gotta see one of the fallen, right, that's, you know, that's usually the bigger situation is, you know, it's delicate. And so we'll do a little bit probably of all kind of, you know, depending on the news, but I'm certainly she won't be ready for the trip at the very best. So we'll turn it pretty quickly, but again, you know, people have, you know, been knowing their roles, and now, you know, they're just the next person in philosophy, so hopefully we'll be able to do that.